welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into something, well, pretty intense. It's one of the most intellectually jarring exercises we've tackled.
Yeah, we're trying to reconcile a failed prophecy timeline, a very specific one, with predictions that are just unsettlingly detailed about future tech.
Exactly. We've been digging into this source material excerpts from a 2005 book called The Nostradamus Code.
Right, and it lays out this incredibly systematic, almost, scientific feeling interpretation of Nostradamus's quatrains. It predicted World War III starting between 2006 and 2012.
Yeah, obviously that specific window has passed. But the reason we're looking at this now is the sheer, almost overwhelming specificity of the plan described.
We're talking geopolitics, advanced weapons, spiritual shifts. The source itself actually claims the detail level borders on, quote, scientific paper quality.
Which is quite a claim. So our mission today isn't really about validating that old timeline.
No, not at all. It's about extracting the mechanisms of conflict described. What was the nature of the collapse it predicted? How did secret tech supposedly interact with the fall of global institutions? We're hunting for those nuggets of knowledge within the blueprint.
Exactly. If this code was meant as a warning, like the source suggests, what were the most specific horrors laid out?
Yeah.
The things that maybe were presented as avoidable.
That's the key question.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. How does the source even explain a 16th century French doctor predicting things like microchips, aircraft carriers, complex banking conspiracies?
Well, the methods described go way beyond just, gazing into a crystal ball. The source mentions Nostradamus using specific esoteric plant recipes,
Right.
accessing lost manuscripts, getting help from guides on the astral plane. But the real kicker, the main tool for these detailed predictions, was apparently a special mirror given to him during meditation.
A mirror. And this wasn't just for seeing visions, right?
Right.
It connects to this whole idea of simultaneous time.
Precisely. The idea is that from a higher spiritual plane, linear time as we experience it is sort of an illusion. Nostradamus, using this mirror, could supposedly tap into that.
So he wasn't just looking forward.
Not exactly. The source suggests he was tapping into the collective subconscious of people from the future receiving, downloads from observers who contacted him. It allowed him to see past and future lifetimes as if they were all happening, right now.
Wow. Okay. That completely changes the dynamic, doesn't it? If the future's already sort of present in the collective mind, how much is fixed? Is it fate?
And that's where the source directly addresses free will versus fatalism. It argues Nostradamus intentionally scrambled his quatrains, made them hard to pin down.
Why do that?
Because he didn't want the future to be fixed. The catastrophic stuff he saw, that was just the course of least resistance, the path humanity would take if, everyone just remained apathetic. Focused thought, determination that could change things.
And the source gives a really specific example of this, right? The Challenger disaster.
It does. Nostradamus apparently predicted the shuttle disaster and that NASA would try to cover up the real cause.
But the cover-up didn't fully stick.
Exactly. And this analysis claims it was thwarted by one person acting outside the system, Richard Feynman, the physicist. His relentless digging into the O-rings, fighting institutional pushback.
He broke through the predicted cover-up. So the prophecy acted as a warning. The disaster happened, but the worst political fallout was averted by individual action.
That's the implication. One person's dogged determination and curiosity, as the source puts it.
Okay, so this whole deep dive then is kind of a search for the weak points in this predicted blueprint. Where does the source suggest we might need our own modern-day Feynmans?
That's the perfect lens. So keeping that framework, simultaneous time, individual power. Let's look at the key players and institutions the source outlines for this future conflict, starting with the big one, the Antichrist.
Right. Described as rising in the Middle East, educated in Egypt, starting his political career locally around the early 2000s, based on the book's 2005 published date.
Yeah, and depicted as worse than Hitler, using a really systematic philosophy explicitly linked to Marx and Engels for control and conquest.
Marx and Engels, that's great.
Very. His goal is supposedly to unify Asia first, but interestingly, not by attacking Russia initially, but by using guile, persuasion, rhetoric to kind of co-opt its leadership before turning to China and then Europe.
Okay, so a master manipulator. But it's not just him. The source details a dramatic fall for the Catholic Church, too, through the fates of the last three popes.
Yeah, it's quite a sequence. The current pope, as of 2005, focused on peace, is predicted to be assassinated while traveling away from the Vatican possibly late spring, near two major rivers, and there's a comet visible at the same time.
So many details. What about the next pope?
The second to last one, a short reign, he gets undermined from within, basically swallowed up, as the source says, by the Antichrist's network. A traitor cardinal steals info, messes with the Pope's letters to make him look incompetent, unstable.
Undermining his authority on the world stage.
Exactly. And then there's the final Pope. This one's depicted as treacherous, possibly French, with a physical defect like a hunched shoulder or a clubfoot, something that caused him pain and ridicule in childhood.
And the Antichrist exploits that past trauma.
That's the claim. Exploits that deep psychological wound to turn him.
That's incredibly dark. Betrayal driven by old personal pain. What's the outcome?
This final pope helps destroy the church from the inside. He leaks crucial, maybe suppressed information to the Antichrist, allows him to desecrate the Vatican, raid its library for treasures.
Which funds the Antichrist's armies.
Apparently. And it shatters the West's spiritual foundation. Its political decay fueled by, well, psychological inertia, you could say.
Beyond the popes, there's another power player mentioned, much more shadowy, the cabal.
Right. This secret group of international financiers, bankers, supposedly existing for generations, pulling strings behind figureheads worldwide, manipulating markets, driving conflicts.
Sounds like standard conspiracy fare, but how does it fit with the Antichrist?
Well, here's the interesting dynamic. The cabal initially thinks the Antichrist is their tool. Someone aggressive they can manipulate to achieve their long-term financial goals, stir up useful conflicts. They figure they can control him through money and resources.
But he turns on them.
He does. The source says he eventually discovers who their 7 key leaders are and brutally eliminates them through espionage.
Wait a minute. If the cabal is, as the source says, actively pushing for war, sinking their sharp teeth into everything, doesn't the Antichrist wiping them out actually help?
That's the paradox the source presents. Yes, his move is strategic for him, but the text explicitly says destroying these 7 leaders inadvertently seals the beginning of the end for the Antichrist's own agenda.
How so?
Because it removes the main generational agitators for world war. Once they're gone, the underlying desire for peace can start to reassert itself, even amidst the chaos.
Okay, that's a complex twist. A glimmer of hope, maybe, in a dark scenario. Let's shift now to the run-up to the war itself. The source talks about a mix of natural disasters and some really terrifying secret tech.
Yeah, before the big invasions kick off, there's this period of intense global chaos. A bright, previously unknown comet appears, coinciding with massive geological problems, earthquakes, volcanoes.
Leading to famine, drought, civil unrest.
Exactly. And this chaos strategically weakens the Western nations. It lets the Antichrist move his forces in, not initially as conquerors, but disguised as peacekeepers, aid providers. The conquest starts looking like relief work.
Deceptive. Okay, now the weapons. This is where a 16th century vision gets incredibly specific, almost sci-fi. The main one is the ETW.
The earthquake-triggering weapon, yes.
So let me get this straight. Nostradamus, back in the 1500s, saw airborne lasers triggering earthquakes along the San Andreas Fault. How does the source even try to explain that?
Well, remember the simultaneous time idea. The argument is, because he was getting info from the collective future consciousness, he could grasp the concept and the effect of the weapon even if he had to describe it in older terms.
Okay.
So, this ETW is supposedly developed in secret underground labs. It uses airborne tech-focused energy waves, maybe lasers aimed directly at existing fault lines.
Like the San Andreas, the New Madrid.
Precisely. The prediction is this causes continuous tremors, chain reactions. At first, maybe it looks natural or like accidents, but then the Antichrist gets hold of the tech through spying.
And uses it openly.
Yes, against his enemies. The source claims the sheer power of this weapon leads to nations just disintegrating, diplomacy failing, even the UN dissolving eventually. It's weaponized geology.
That's horrifying. And it's not the only advanced weapon mentioned, is it?
No. There's also biological and chemical warfare. A deadly bug hits major cities. New York, London are named, causing infrastructure to collapse. Mass starvation follows because quarantines stop food deliveries.
And atmospheric weapons, too. Something about milky rain.
Yeah, described as radiation rain, maybe from a mix of nuclear and laser tech. And also a specific atomic device designed to create an extreme greenhouse effect, which devastates agriculture globally. Wipes out supply chains.
This is just relentless devastation. Is there more?
There's one more really chilling aspect. Eugenics. Advanced human eugenics research pushed by a figure called the King of Terror.
Who's that? Not the Antichrist.
Seems to be someone else, maybe a shadowy financier, the power behind the throne type. Funding research, get this, to breed fiercer, more cunning infantry soldiers.
Like genetically engineered soldiers.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
And the funding allegedly comes from entities in the US, Japan, Russia, and some European countries. A multinational effort in horror.
This just feels like the ultimate expression of that apathy Nostradamus warned about. Powerful groups funding atrocities for strategic gain. The path of least resistance taken to its absolute worst conclusion.
It really is. And adding to this chaos are specific international blunders, like a communications breakdown between the US and Russia, a fiasco leading to deep mistrust, ending careers in military leadership on both sides.
Just avoidable mistakes escalating things.
Exactly. And then there's mention of a different leader, someone described as crazed, not the Antichrist launching atomic bombs into the Mediterranean and southern Europe, poisoning the sea, creating environmental havoc that the Antichrist then exploits.
Wow. And even domestically in the U.S.
Yeah. A predicted electoral college stalemate during a time of huge social unrest, so severe it requires some kind of compromise election just to stave off civil war. The whole world's structure is just unraveling through these cascading failures, bad decisions, political inertia.
It's an incredibly bleak picture. Seas boiling, famine leading to...
Well, the source mentions cannibalism in some regions. Is there any light at the end of this tunnel?
Well, the source insists the Antichrist's rule, despite the devastation, is inherently unstable. It burns hot but fast. It can't last.
And a counterforce emerges. Yes. A figure named Ogmios, drawn from Celtic legend, the great orator. Described as an old soul rising from Central Europe's underground movements. He doesn't have the armies or the money.
But he has principles.
Yeah.
And words.
Exactly. He uses powerful, truthful speech to gather followers. He's destined, the source says, to confront the Antichrist in that gray area between Europe and Asia.
Interesting. And what about nations? Does anyone push back effectively?
This is a major turning point. Russia eventually manages to break free from the Antichrist's control. It then unites with the countries that haven't been conquered.
Forming an alliance.
Yes, the North Pole Alliance. Basically, North America, Europe, and this now free Russia. This alliance, born from defiance and necessity, is what truly starts to worry the Antichrist. It signals the beginning of the end for World War III, according to the source.
So the Antichrist is eventually defeated. The source says his reign is less than 29.5 years.
Correct. Less than 3 decades. And after he's dethroned, the physical world itself undergoes a massive change. The source predicts a sudden, huge Earth shift, happening incredibly fast, like within a 6 to 10 hour period. It dramatically redraws continents. For instance, a new channel cutting right through Africa, large parts of Asia going underwater.
A literal reshaping of the world. And this leads to...
This geological shift is the trigger, apparently, for the predicted spiritual rebirth, the start of a new age.
What does that look like?
It's characterized by a green revolution, a desperate, necessary return to living off the land, a renewed reverence for the feminine aspects of God, and, significantly, open contact with extraterrestrials,
Peace.
referred to as the Watchers. The idea is they've been observing humanity's ethical progress or lack thereof, and now step in more directly.
Okay, that's a leap. And there's one more figure, after the Antichrist.
Yes. Later on, mid-21st century, the second generation after the Antichrist's fall sees the rise of a great genius. This person manages to unify science and religion by discovering the science of miracles. This supposedly allows for incredible medical advances, even things like reanimating the body, basically healing the planet and humanity after the devastation.
Wow. We have covered an unbelievable amount of ground here, from 16th century psychic techniques and popes betraying their church, to earthquake weapons, global alliances, and finally, ET contact and miracle science.
It's a lot, but the core message, the thread woven through all of it in the source material, really comes back to that initial point. This isn't about unavoidable fate, it's a warning about inertia.
About apathy.
Exactly. Man's apathy is the most negative contribution. That's almost a direct quote from the analysis we read.
And the implication is that our collective negativity, our bad actions, our, well, lazy thinking, actually feeds the rise of someone like the predicted Antichrist. That this whole terrible drama is partly a lesson for us.
A lesson, too, as the source puts it, clean our own mental and bodily temples. The blueprint isn't destiny, it's just the path of least resistance.
Okay, so here's the final thought we want to leave you with. If you personally discovered some hidden truth as specific and devastating as the ones described here, say, proof of the earthquake-triggering weapon development, or the secret funding of that eugenics program,
What specific action, what piece of that truth would you pursue relentlessly, like Feynman did with the O-rings?
how would you defy that foretold negativity? Because the world, according to this interpretation of Nostradamus, really needs more people with that kind of dogged determination and curiosity.
Go forth and maybe choose the path of most resistance sometimes?
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.